Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
He's at the 20.
They should stop this one.
What you got? Domination, snot bubbles.
He throws, complete, touchdown. They've got him again. They've got him again. Sack Crumpler, what a throw, what a hit, what a catch.
Defense is just way too much for the count.
It's caught by Alshon Jeffrey for a touchdown. He pushes, touchdown. Jalen Hunt, touchdown. A.J. Brown, a run. He's going to score.
It's a touchdown by Nick Foles.
The train is in the end zone. Touchdown.
Torrey Smith in for the touchdown is Jeffrey.
In. Touchdown. Jalen Hurts.
So the Birds had their first day of OTAs yesterday, and with the boys back on the practice field, there are some exciting battles to look out for. Now let's not forget the dates of OTAs, which started yesterday, the 27th, today the 28th, May the 30th, June 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, and we're going to cover all of it. But we're not going to cover the ridiculous rumors that tend to come out of camp like last year, which we're not even going to get into. Let's just say the rumors can get pretty wild, and you just have to take it with a massive grain of salt and weed through the BS, because you're going to hear and see some things that are just simply not the truth.
It was me.
Now, the NFL offers 10 days of OTAs and practices during the offseason, in which Sirianni and the Eagles decided to pick 6. Not a big deal, seeing as though it's just 4 days off, and the boys will be back for mandatory camp soon. And OTAs are as hype as ever, and the questions loom around some key positions. There will definitely be some competitive battles in camp. It's no secret that the Birds lost a couple of pieces on defense and even a guard position on the offensive line, which brings me to the first battle that I think is worth keeping an eye on. That's Kenyon Green versus Tyler Steen for the guard position, right guard that is, on the offensive line. Now, I'm going to take what's basically veteran experience here and go with Tyler Steen winning this battle, seeing as though Kenyon Green is still a little green, no pun intended, but although Steen has shown promise and has experience on the offensive line, I'm still questioning whether Steen would be able to hold up for a full season. But when he's called on, I can honestly say overall, I trust Steen's ability to be able to perform at a high level throughout the 17 weeks, especially versus Kenyon Green, who's joining the Eagles with some of that untapped potential. After early career struggles in the NFL, Green started 14 games as a rookie, but was the 77th highest graded guard, 37.7 out of 77 players in the Pro Football Focus PFF rankings that year. Last season, Green was the lowest graded offensive guard in the NFL, so I'm hoping that he can turn it around in Stoutland University, but I still think Steen will earn a starting role. He's just going to have to show us some of that and prove me right with his ability and prove this season that he can hang, especially if he wants to play for Philly in the future on a big contract, because one thing we do know that how he's proven, he will pay you if you play good. In addition, most of the time the linemen get paid the big bucks in the offseason first, so a massive good luck to Steen this season. Now, after losing Darius Slay in the offseason for a trade to Pittsburgh, the CB2 position is literally up for grabs, and it can be anyone, and that anyone could be Keely Ringo or Adoree Jackson. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but I actually predicted last season that Ringo would end up being a top 10 cornerback in the league. That was before Rodgers beat him out in camp, and boy, was I ever wrong. And after the 2024 season, and with only a limited amount of snaps throughout the season, Ringo will have a chance to beat out Eli Riggs and Adoree Jackson for cornerback 2 across from Quinyon Mitchell. I'm definitely excited to see first-year Eagle Adoree Jackson come into battle with a chance to start, and Riggs will be trying to find another spot in the midst of the offseason. Now, the NFL is taking its second shot at the Eagles, but this is not the tush-push, and this shot could be much more detrimental. When 2 days ago, Roger Goodell spoke to and through the media surrounding the NFL's salary cap, and he was clearly speaking to and about the Birds, if you ask me, because Goodell expressed his concern about the NFL's salary cap, and one of his concerns was the teams in the NFL not utilizing the cap correctly and operating with this quote-unquote intended spirit, and how void years on contracts are basically an issue, saying how he and the owners of the NFL wants to fix that and make the cap more competitive. Now, if you know anything about the Birds, then you know this is how they do business contractually. This is a poke in the eye to Philadelphia because using void years and finding loopholes within contracts are the way in which Howie and the Eagles front office works. Look, I'm not going to bore you with numbers or confuse you or nerd out with the salary cap or how it works. Basically, all you need to know is that the Eagles use this method and they utilize it to their advantage, paying players most of their money up front, making the value of that player essentially drop in the later years, which is why a player like Jalen Hurts signed a massive contract in 2023, was one of the highest paid quarterbacks, and only just 2 years after winning a Super Bowl, he's not even the top 10 most highest paid quarterback. Most teams don't and won't use void years because what it means is that the owner and GM is giving the player most of his money in the beginning of his contract, front loading the contract, which doesn't cause a massive hit to your overall cap and allows you to evaluate and sign some of the best athletes the NFL has to offer, even in free agency. It's why we've been able to obtain basically any player we want, because who doesn't want most of their money in the beginning of their contract versus the end? And if this changes, which it probably won't until the next few years, it could be a huge change of the guard for Philadelphia. So I'm hoping before Goodell and the NFL makes this huge decision to make changes to the cap, the Birds and this regime would have already embarked on 1 or 2 Super Bowl wins, maybe 3. Now, Kevin Patulo had his press conference, and it was great to hear some of his plans for the Birds. And I honestly think this season, there's going to be a close to perfect Eagles offense, rushing with Saquon, but a good dose of passing by Kevin Patulo.
Yeah, I don't think we'll change too much, right? We've kind of had the Eagles offense is what we've kind of been running essentially the last 4 years, and we'll kind of keep it in that grouping of words just because the continuity of everybody, it'll be a lot easier, and then we can make adjustments or add stuff within things because that kind of baseline language is already built.
Although Patulo is coming into his first year offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, he has prior experience, which I really didn't think about, with some of the most talented play callers in NFL history. He's been underneath some of those guys, and I already knew this, but I didn't really put into perspective how well decorated Patulo's background really was. Prior to becoming to Philly, becoming an offensive coordinator, offensive assistant, quality control coach, and I definitely didn't put into consideration how much knowledge he has in the NFL. I'm definitely not going to overlook that now, and I'm definitely going to take that into consideration. I have to, especially now after Patulo gave us some inside information about his experiences under coaches like Chan Gailey, Frank Wright, and the legendary Herm Edwards.
Different places. Started in Kansas City when I was with Herm Edwards. I was a young coach then. He had just come from Georgia Tech at that point. And just going through that with him was very unique. You know, in 2008 we lost a couple quarterbacks. We ended up having Tyler Thigpen come in. And I'll never forget, we get into a staff room and the walls are all white. There's nothing up there. He goes, all right, we got to figure out a new offense for this week. And he was willing to do anything and try anything to be successful. We ended up developing this no huddle system. We were in the pistol in 2008. Nobody knew what the pistol was in the NFL. And we were successful for the most part. We knew a lot of games, but we moved the ball with a bunch of guys that we didn't know really if we could do that with. And so, you know, him being able to show, look, we do what we have to do to win. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to look a certain way was huge. And then, you know, I went to Buffalo with him and it looked way different. And we had Ryan Fitzpatrick there and we were in 4 wides throwing all over the place. And I got with him again in New York. And so just being around him, he's probably been my greatest influence on my past. And then obviously Nick currently, but, you know, he just taught me a lot. And the biggest thing was, you know, put your players in position, allow them to be successful and develop dialogue, communication with them, and things will take off. But no, he's definitely been a big influence on me.
Go subscribe now to Eagles Centric. You guys know the routine. Like, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching. Also, I have to start telling you guys that a lot more. I can't express my appreciation for you guys. Every time you give me a view, a like, subscribe, a comment, a share, anything, it's well appreciated. And it's going to contribute to the 2K subscribers that we need over here at Eagles Centric to get you guys home or away tickets for an Eagles game of your choice. Let me know. Let me know. Go Birds, and you guys know the routine. Be blessed.